You know, you can't think about the continent of Africa without thinking of big game hunting, or at least guys probably like you and I. I mean, we think about big game hunting, and of course, the biggest of the big game in the world is elephant bull. And he is one of Africa's most iconic, not only species, but one of the most iconic hunts. It's really the classic tracking hunt. And the elephant hunting of today, in a lot of ways, hasn't changed since Roosevelt was over there after his first elephant. You know, they say you shoot an elephant with your gun, you kill him with your legs. And elephant hunting can be exciting, it can be tedious, it can be damn difficult, but it's one of the most exhilarating hunts in all of Africa. And that's exactly what the feature is going to be today. We're going to Zimbabwe bull elephant hunting, and I want to bring in my two partners in crime that were on this safari. And there up in the upper right, coming to us, looks like a tropical resort behind him, is Keith Wall. Keith, how are you, brother?
Dave, how are you doing? Once again, thanks for having me on the podcast. It's an absolute pleasure joining you as always, and looking forward to this episode.
Well, and of course, we don't even get to see the episode if it's not for the guy center bottom there, Andy Macdonald, our head Safari Classics cameraman, field editor, field producer, and videographer. Andy, how are you, buddy?
How you doing, Mr. Dave? All good, man. Can't complain, eh?
Well, I'll say Andy's been busy this week. He just had his second baby boy, and I think you really hit the gas to get back from the hospital to jump on this morning, so I really appreciate it. So congratulations on baby Theo.
Thank you very much, Dave. Nowhere else I'd rather be right now, man. Good to be here.
Well, guys, we're going to, of course, Keith is one of the top hunters at Charlton McCallum Safaris, and they're no strangers to our audience. And, we're going to be in the Zambezi Valley, one of the true elephant strongholds in all of Africa. And our guest today is just a really great guy, George Geyer. Keith kind of set up the hunt, as it's going to, play out. Tell me a little bit about, the area. I want to know what time of year it is and all that. And then I want to talk about George for a minute.
So we're hunting in the Dande north of Zimbabwe, one of Zimbabwe's prestigious, well-known hunting areas. I reckon by far one of the most stunning areas to hunt, with all its terrain, the beauty of the hills, the springs, just its sheer beauty, and hunting down all your dangerous game the real way. So here with old George Geyer, and George is a very good close of friends of myself and Andy Mac, and we're about to embark on a beautiful elephant bull hunt. And I'll tell you what, it was one of the most exciting hunts we've had in a long time. We put lots of miles down, both on the road and on foot. As we all know, hunting elephant, you hunt elephant with your feet. We looked at multiple bulls before we pulled the trigger, and the particular bull we got, we really worked hard for it.
Well, now, Keith, George waited till he was a little bit older in life before the elephant bug. Well, it may have bit him a long time ago, but, he kind of started his elephant, career late in life. And as we talked about, it is most people will say it's really a young guy's game. I don't agree with that, and we're going to disprove that today. But there is a real level of physical expectations and demands. But Keith, as I watch this, and obviously George is a little bit older guy, and elephant hunting, comes with the expectations of a lot of physical demands on your body, because there's nothing easy about it, especially in the Zambezi Valley. But not only did he just hunt hard as hell, but his attitude was so wonderful. And he made a comment, and I told Christy, I said, I want to play this little piece of video because I think he summed this up perfectly, what an elephant hunt is.
I've been very lucky in my life that I've been able to hunt a lot of places in North America and South America, but Africa truly is the destination that any hunter hopes to be able to go to someday. I was lucky enough to, this is my 4th trip to Africa. I've been in Tanzania a couple times in the Selous, but always had heard about, seen, watched movies of the Zambezi Valley, which is so spectacular, but also difficult, you know, and I think as a hunter, you kind of mature into this place.
Well, every African hunt starts with a trip to the camp rifle range, and George brought his double rifle. What was he shooting? I don't remember the make or caliber.
He was using a Krieger 500.
Okay.
And it had, if I remember rightly, he did bring 2 guns actually. Sorry, looking at the shooting range there. He bought his 4.58 lot, but his main focus was to use his 500, his Krieger on the elephant.
Yeah. Well, there's not much. That 500 will push you, but it hits hard on both. It hits hard on both ends. It's a beautiful elephant cartridge, and he obviously shot it very well. You're saying, yeah, you do that on the elephant, we'll have our bull, and then the rest of it's in your teams and your trackers, and Keith, I said tracking is everything on this. It's just the heart and soul of an elephant hunt, and you've got a great team of trackers.
My head tracker, Guddies, he's been with me from my apprentice days, so that's 22 years we've been together. He's like my brother. So yeah, I do believe that having trackers makes the team, and they are the team. Without them, we're not PHs. So they are 100% key in the whole fact of tracking down animals and the success as well.
Well, there you guys are. You're at a great place to pick up elephant tracks. A big pan out in the bush. But Keith, I could tell by watching the client edit, it was an early season hunt, and there seemed to be a lot of water.
Early season, yes, Dave. It was quite early, which is quite nice. It's actually a good time of the year to hunt the Dande bulls there. There's a lot of movement, a lot of action, so you tend to work all the water pans and all the riverine because they love that thick jess and that. But obviously with all those pans, they love to wallow in the mud, so it was quite key looking at all the pans and walking the rivers.
Okay, well, you Andy, pretty quick, you guys got on a set of tracks, and you're in business.
We're just walking in the Nyakasanga River, and we've just stumbled across an elephant bull track. It seems quite fresh from this afternoon sometime, maybe an hour or so. We're going to try and see if we can follow him and see if we can get a look, but this is hopefully time is on our side.
So this river is in an area we call Mandebvu. It's close to a communal village called Arira. There's a lot of action there with the bulls, especially early season with the crop raiding. They go into the crops at night and they head out into the thick brush during the day. So this particular river was Mandebvu. So we spent quite a bit of time in that river, close to that village, Arira. So it's a combination of doing problem animal control. They're going into the fields, obviously raiding the crops, and a lot of the big bulls tend to teach the younger bulls what to do. So we followed quite a few bulls on that particular day.
Well, Andy, if I remember right, y'all started on a track of 3 bulls, and Keith had, said, we're going to follow them. I don't see a particularly big track, but I've killed some big ivory that didn't have really big feet. But you guys ran, and then all of a sudden they joined in with some other bulls, and you finally caught them. Andy, I think there were 6 bulls in there. Yeah,
they're thereabouts, Dave.
Yeah.
The thing with the Dande, and I'm sure Keith will back it up, every PH that I hunt with when I'm filming there, if you find a good enough set of tracks, it doesn't even matter what time of the day it is. And I'm not talking about like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but if you think you've got a chance, you take it. And more often than not, they'll either join up with another couple of bulls maybe, but majority of the time, it'll get mixed in with cows. And whenever you find a collection point like those ones were at there, your chance of finding multiple groups of elephant all arriving at the same time are pretty high.
Well, you obviously got a good look at those, and obviously there wasn't a bull in there that you were interested in. So Keith, the communal area, and explain, look, explain to somebody maybe doesn't know, what is a communal area, and how is it relevant to the Dande area?
So Dande compromises of two sections. We've got a safari area and a communal area, mainly comprised of communal area where we've got people in villages that don't live inside the hunting area but in the outskirts. And what happens in the communal areas, they know that the value of these animals actually gives them schools, it gives them water, it gives them clinics, it gives them every bit of life that they need to run their day-to-day living. So they know that Charlton McCallum safaris, if they weren't there, there will be no hunting, and with no hunting there'll be no animals. So, but with us being there through hunting and conservation, or should I say conservation through hunting, the people, the communal people there have learned to understand that we have a value, the animals have a value, and they look after us and we look after them, and the animals look after us in turn as well.
Yeah, CMS has done one of the greatest jobs of forming one of the best examples of a working partnership, with rural people in a communal area. And you just said it perfectly. It works for the game, it works for the locals, it works for a thriving safari company, and that each part of those feeds the machine. It just keeps it going, and y'all have done a great job. So, one of the best areas of intel in the bush can be the communal areas, and I think this next piece of footage, you guys are actually going in there, and
so it's what we call bush telegraph in the bush. So everywhere in Dande, everyone has a cell phone, and obviously in that time of year with all the crops around, the people get to tend to know that there's a PH and a client hunting for elephant. So they like our eyes and ears as well. And a lot of those guys obviously know what a big elephant is all about. So that particular day, we got a call from a nearby village and saying that they had seen 2 elephant bulls and one looked particularly good. So myself and George and Andy Mac, we decided to go in and have a look and see if we can find these bulls.
These bulls come in, whether they're old bulls or young bulls, and they're raiding these crops. These elephants are not stupid. They understand they're probably doing something they shouldn't be doing. And they tend to come in there at night. They get in the crops. They can flatten a guy's little 3-acre patch of mealie, and off they go. But then they tend to go into some pretty thick cover. They kind of go into their hidey hole once they know they've been naughty during the evening.
Definitely, Dave. There's no age restriction for a crop raiding elephant. You can find colossal old bulls, and you find all the riffraff. You find the little guys, the smaller guys, the non-trophies. But like Keith was saying, some of the guys do know, and a lot of those villages are the homes of the trackers themselves. So a lot of the times we'll get calls from the trackers if they're not on a hunt at that particular time. And the other thing about that, Dave, through my experience, what I found in Dande is, especially with crop raiding elephants, when the crops are obviously in fruit and nutritious for the animals, they'll spend all evening in those particular fields that they're raiding, and they won't go far during the day. They'll go off into the bush. That Dande bush, you get those big jess blocks, is way thick enough for them to feel comfortable and not venture way far off from the crops. So it can actually be, majority of the time, it could be quite a quick hunt when you're going after crop raiding elephants, from my experience.
Well, this morning I'm happy to welcome Jim Barton with Steyr Arms down to Texas.
First of all, thanks for having us, Dave. It's an overcast day here in Texas, so we're not cooking yet. But yeah, so this is the CL2 Green Heron. Green Heron, formerly known as Bansner & Co., very famous custom rifle builder. They've recently split their stock division and their custom rifle division, so Green Heron's making the stock. This is a 300 Win Mag, this particular rifle.
That's exactly what I ordered mine in.
Yes, sir. So we have a threaded muzzle up there. I think that's necessary these days. Suppressors, muzzle brakes, whatever you want to throw on there. Every single rifle the Steyr produces has got a cold hammer forged barrel in it. Great barrels, they'll outlast you. We've got Picatinny rail on here for, you know, that's just the easiest thing, is tried and true.
Yep.
What I wanted to show you is this 3-position roller tang safety. So you've got a first position, your bolt locks, trigger's dead. Second position, bolt's actionable, trigger's dead.
It's one of the best features on the rifle.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, tang safeties have so many benefits in the sense that it's fast. It's just like a shotgun. You bring it up, that safety comes off, goes right back on when you bring it down. And obviously the green Heron Miller stock with a classic rud butt pad, which is a design choice I think we had to.
Well, you know, I was looking at that. That is such a classic look on a rifle, and you just don't see it anymore. And you said all of them are going to come with the classic red. I think that's just a really nice addition to an already really well-built rifle. Tell me about the action on this rifle.
The CL2, as with most of our rifles, is built off of the Steyr SBS action. SBS stands for Safe Bolt System. The SBS was introduced in the late 90s, and Steyr has always been, you know, the Europeans, we love them. One of the things that they obsess over is safety. So on top of being a 3-position safety and having that lockout, you have the ability with the tab up, where you can't roll it forward, you have to depress that tab to roll it forward. With that tab up, you can depress the bolt handle to the side of the gun, you hear that little click, and what you've done there is you've actually locked the firing pin out. So you can have a round in this chamber and you're on a high rack, you're climbing over a fence, all the classic things where you say you unload the rifle. We still suggest that, it's always a safe thing to do. But you have that ability to lock that firing pin out. This gun is rendered completely dead.
That's a fail-safe.
Fire. Yes, sir. So it is locked like a bank bolt. And to bring it out of that, all you do is depress that safety and roll it forward, and it's going to pop right back out.
But Jim, like most avid shooters, like you and I, you know, one of my favorite things is breaking in a new rifle. And I got to see one of these in North Texas a few months ago on a hunt, and I said, man, that's a rifle I want to take. And I'm going to be taking it on a Croc and Plains game hunt here in a couple of months. And you know, I love that 300 caliber, but I just like the weight and I like the feel of this rifle. For Plains game, you may be carrying this all day long.
Absolutely.
And it's just exactly what I was looking for, and I literally cannot wait to get my hands on mine. But until then, I'm going to shoot yours some today.
That's all right.
Well, the next piece of footage is kind of unique. Look, there's all kind of spoor, and spoor can be, it's not just tracks. I mean, you know, in elephant hunting, you're obviously looking for tracks, but there's different kind of spoor. There's droppings, there's, you know, you can see where elephants have fed and pulled branches and stuff down. And here's one of your trackers, and explain what he's doing right there, Keith.
So that's my tracker gutties. We had found these elephant where they had bedded down, and what he's showing us there is where one of the bull's tusks had been buried on the ground where he was lying. So he's just given an impression of where the ivory was.
So that's just where he decided to lay down and snooze. And again, you know, a tusk imprint on the ground, boy, that's probably as good a spoor as you can find. And I've seen those too. And you know, sometimes when it's a big tusker, boy, everybody looks down and boy, the excitement level gets ratcheted up pretty damn fast. You guys, one of the cool sightings that you guys had, you ran into a big pack of Cape hunting dogs, or you know, wild dogs. And
yes,
it's really cool on an elephant hunt because you really see Africa from a different point of view when you're walking and you're not always driving. And you guys, you know, were in a vehicle, but came around the corner and here's a big old pack of hunting dogs. And not everybody gets to see that, but it's one of the most efficient predators on the African continent is those things. And they, they're very, you know, I mean, they're just doing what God programmed them to do, but they are killers.
They are. Their success rate it's unbelievable. And you know, that's why when these animals get into big packs like this one that we saw here, I mean, this was 22 or 23 that we counted, if I'm not mistaken. And I actually got off the car here and got right up close to them. I wasn't 10 yards from these things right here. So their temperament is very, very chilled, very relaxed. But when it comes time for them to be hunting, wild dogs are, they are prolific. They're unbelievable. They're incredible animals.
Well, also they're a protected species, and
yes.
You know, unlike hyena, you know, that are on quota, you don't hunt them, and after a few generations they figure out, you know, there's no problem when they have a contact. So you guys are just in the bush, and you know, Keith, unfortunately, one of the things that you see in the bush, you don't see it much in your areas, because the DAPU team, which stands for Dande Anti-Poaching Team, your guys are always, in the middle of the anti-poaching wars and collecting snares. And tell me a little bit about that program, Keith.
So the Dande Anti-Poaching Unit is one of the most successful programs that Buzz and Miles have actually started up, and they've been doing it for a number of years. And their success rate of catching poachers are quite high. The amount of snares that have been recovered and the amount of animals' lives that have been saved is all thanks to DAPU. And I'll tell you what, us as PHs, hunters, also help towards that anti-poaching, because, I mean, we walk in places where sometimes DAPU cannot get there. So we'll walk in there, we'll find these snares, pick up a few, but also in the same breath, we are the eyes and ears for DAPU. We'll give lock stats, radio communication as to where to go, and they will go and put a stick in there, recover as much snares as possible, and possibly even catch a poacher or two.
I was tracking our elephant and we just stumbled across an old snare. It just goes to show you that us hunters do something about it when we come across these snares.
Well, I think you're still hitting your villages, Keith. Still picking up intel. So, you're just piling in here, and I think you got a call, and obviously it looks like you're getting some information there.
So yeah, Dave, the first couple of days, it's like doing homework, especially being the beginning of the season. And you tend to listen to the guys that are on the ground there, especially the guys in the village. That particular scene there, that's actually Miles' tracker, Tinos. He also used to track for Mark Valara at one stage. And Tinos is he's no beginner, he's a veteran. And he actually put us onto those bulls and said to us one of them could possibly be a candidate for a good bull to take.
And you can see, all that, the crops there. So you're taking off after some intel that you received. I can't really remember exactly how this particular hunt ends up.
Yeah, so we actually
Dave, we
caught up
found
to
these
ones.
sorry.
No.
No, go ahead,
Go
Andy.
for it.
Andy, go ahead, bud.
Okay. So Dave, we actually ended up, after we got to Tinas, he had given us the call in the morning. We then got the intel from him, as Keith said, and we followed them into the jet. And, like I said earlier, they hadn't gone very far. And if I'm not mistaken, it was 2 or 3 bulls. It took us a long time. It took Keith a long time. A lot of the times he left George and I back. It was really thick and it was really noisy with all of the leaves on the ground. But eventually, cut a long story short, one of them was probably old enough, but just wasn't the quality of bull we were looking for. And we got right up to those ones as well.
So we followed this one bull track, and I'm sure Andy will bear me out on this. And he got into these herd of cows, which they quite oftenly do. They get in and out of the cows. And there must have been about 30, 40 cows. It is quite interesting.
At least.
They were feeding right onto us at that stage. And luckily the wind turned and they got our wind and took off. But we actually got a glimpse of the bull that we were actually after, but we never saw his ivory, we only saw his body. And just seeing the size of his body told us, hey guys, we need to be quite persistent on this bull. But we didn't get lucky that day. Unfortunately, the wind just wouldn't allow us there.
Well, you don't just troop right through the middle of a cow herd when you're on bull tracks. That's a ticking time bomb situation there. You gotta handle that very carefully.
Yeah, we did. We tiptoed through that herd after we got bust quite a few times. But it does get hair raising, and things can turn bad really quickly if you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
As you can see, elephants have decimated that crop area, and we found a very good bull track there. And it was early morning.
So you're just, yeah, that was a good track. So obviously there, an elephant's been there. So
Nice and fresh.
so I think now the hunt is heating up here, heating up hard.
So this day started out like most days, Dave. We got another call from some of the villagers. You could see they had told us that they had seen a couple of bulls. Again, we picked up the tracks from the villagers themselves. You can actually see how close those elephants walk to those villagers' huts. Again, you can see still early morning. We got up to a couple of bulls here. And I remember Keith saying to George, this might be the one. He had a good sized body on him. We were thinking maybe, I mean, Keith wanted to make his final observations here, but as he turned, Keith said, no, he's not good enough. Which again, you know, you go from adrenaline thumping, I might be shooting this thing, to, okay, he's not big enough again. It's just that roller coaster of emotions that go with elephant hunting.
So this particular bull that you're actually showing right now, Dave, is actually one she got onto with all those cows. We saw his track cross the main road again from the direction he took the previous day, but he was coming back. So we picked up his track early in the morning. I think we tracked him for, a good 2.5 hours, if I remember rightly. And he dropped into this, the river here we call I think that's called the Chamaimba River. And he dropped in there twice.
Found some elephant dung here. Whilst on his tracks, he's busy feeding here. The dung's still fairly warm. Not hot, but it's warm, so.
We actually walked out on top of the Jess onto one elephant path, and while we were doing that, he had dropped back into the river. And I decided, well, let's just drop back into the river and try and see if we can cut him off. And as we dropped in the river, we just saw him coming up onto the ridge there, as you can see. Yes.
Yes, in the ear. Yes, in the ear. Now. Come, let's put another one in the chest. Let's put another one in the chest. Come closer. Kneel down in the chest. In the chest. Reload. We are. I want to shoot her in the head. Come. I don't know. Come on. Go around. Run safe. Come here to me. I want you to shoot him over here. Kneel down. Well done, my friend.
Brother.
George.
Well done, you guys. Oh, thank you.
Good shooting. Oh my goodness. Yes. Nice and going. Come here.
And how dramatic is that?
Doesn't get much more dramatic than that, Dave. That's only the second elephant I've ever seen roll.
And that's some pure emotion there, huh?
You know what, Dave? After, I think, what was this, day 10 of the hunt, and we had put in some miles, man. You know, what you don't see in a lot of this footage and what we haven't spoken about here is how much tracking we had actually done. You know, George really was, I think he was due at that point. We had been up on a few bulls. A couple of the days were really slow. We weren't seeing much bull activity. And then when we found that track, which was, like Keith said, the same bull that we had tracked into all those cows a couple of days before, none of us, again, knew what this bull looked like. We had seen his body. We knew he had the right body size. Looking at the tracks, looked like he was an old bull. He had good wear on the back of his feet, which obviously they get from age, walking all those miles. And I'll never forget seeing Keith when he put his thumbs up like that, and you could see, that's when you knew it was happening. And there are fewer times that excitement hits you as hard as that. And that's what I'll go back to, you know, the difference between tracking an elephant and spotting and stalking an elephant, especially in thick bush, is when you finally get up to a bull, and you're generally quite close at that point as well. You know, you're trying to be quiet, you're trying to keep your wits about you. But when you finally get the thumbs up from the PH, that's when you know it's go time. Wow, unbelievable. And George did such a great job here.
Yeah,
you'll hear two shots. You hear two shots in that video, and George had stressed to Keith that he will back up. You know, a lot of people have spoken to me about why did the PH shoot the second time. It was because he had been instructed to by the PH as well.
Well, if you don't hit that brain, that
about George.
That bull was 95% covered by bush to start with, and
exactly.
He takes 2 steps forward and he disappears, and you know, and that is a team victory there. That's just not the hunter. That's Keith. That's Andy Mac. That's the trackers, because those guys are so invested in the hunt as well. And
beautiful bull.
I tell you what, that was quite an emotional hunt for everyone there. And as you say, Dave, it's a team effort from the trackers to the client to Andy behind the camera. It's a big team effort. And I tell you, that's one of the better elephants I've taken in a long time in the Dande. He went 45 pounds, and it couldn't have gone to a better man and taken down the real way with his feet and done the right way.
You know, the elephant hunting experience does not end with a shot. You know, now is one of the most important parts of the elephant hunt. And you know, Keith, you walk me through this process. I mean, our people have seen it before, but it's always worth repeating.
Within an hour, without us having even spoken to anyone, do you remember how those villagers? Tinas arrived with his brother running down the river with sacks for the meat. Remember that?
On standby.
I don't know how they even knew we shot that thing. We weren't in signal, nothing. But and then the villagers started pouring and streaming in from everywhere, which was incredible. So yeah, talk about that, man. You know, that bush telegraph working again, and that's the reward for those people.
This is quite an important process of the hunt itself, the actual recovery of the trophy and recovering the skins and the ivory. But also, this is where the community benefits from this. Because they've also helped us look after the wildlife, this is a reward. They get both the trophy fee and the protein from it, all the meat. So absolutely nothing goes to waste. And geez, as a perfect example right here, I mean, you didn't see behind the scenes here, but we actually shot this elephant not far from a village. And as bush telegraph goes, no cell phones there. Within 3 hours, we had guys piling in from the village, coming to help recover the elephant.
What's going on, man?
Well, they're continuing to harvest this elephant. It's absolutely incredible that an animal that size is almost down to nothing in 5 hours. And they're using absolutely every bit of it. Nothing goes to waste. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Even the bone, they're chunking the bone away and taking it. So it must be using the marrow. It's just it's actually incredible. And they milk all the waste out of the intestine, and then he's got it on, you know, a couple sticks, hanging it. It must be now putting it in his sacks. That's just crazy. Amazing stuff. Nothing, absolutely nothing. goes to waste. We, in our country, we waste, an average family of 4 wastes more food in a night than these people waste in an entire elephant. It's really something to see. Puts everything in perspective, makes you, next time I sit down to dinner, I'm not gonna waste anything.
So it was a good team effort, both on our side and the community. Everyone benefited, and what a pleasure.
Yeah, I know you guys probably had an adult beverage and a cigar or something, later that evening back in camp. That had to be you're not having to spring out of bed the next morning at daylight, huh?
I tell you what, Dave, there's very, very few words that mean as much to me as no wake-up call. Especially on an elephant hunt where you've been walking from sun up till sundown. Your feet are sore, your mind is tired. But when that elephant went down, and we all shared an adult beverage around the campfire that evening. We actually saw the Starlink satellites all come over us, which was beautiful. But just sitting around the fire and reminiscing about those times, a lot of the times we just sit there and there's silence, and you can tell everyone's just going through all the processes and all the memories in their own mind, and slowly but surely you start to share them together. But just for George, for someone like George to get an elephant of that quality and to do it the way we did it, that is just the hunt of a lifetime for someone. That's what I hope, that everyone who comes out to have the same resolve and the same attitude as George, I hope they all come away as successful as they do, because that is the right attitude to have when coming to Africa.
This is the reality of an elephant hunt. It's a very focused, very specific goal, and all of your efforts are going to go towards that goal. Until, look, you might be hunting buffalo every now and then again. You get on some smoking hot tracks and you may deviate, but I think he did it right. He said, I don't want to get sidetracked. My goal is as nice a bull elephant as we can find, and I'm going to stay in the game until that happens, and that's exactly how it happened. So,
You see the bull there?
Shoot again. Shoot.
more hunters come to Africa after Cape buffalo than any of the other dangerous game species. As a professional hunter, describe what you consider to be the ideal buffalo trophy.
Simple. Old. We'll take age every day of the week. So for me, that means something that's got worn horn tips, something that's got a gray face, white face, something with smooth, hard bosses, tatty ears. All of those go towards making an old dugger boy, and that's paramount. That's more important than width. If you get width, that's an added bonus, but that should be the bonus once the age box has been picked. So for me, that's simple. Old.
For me, the ideal buffalo trophy is a nice, hard-bossed old dugger boy. A lot of clients, a lot of people, not just clients, but a lot of people also, look at a buffalo trophy, from a trophy from the width. But for me, the bosses, the age, is something that makes it really special and a real trophy.
So that was a great hunt, but we have a little side bonus hunt. Now, he enjoyed that elephant hunting experience with you, Keith and Andy, so much he said, I want to come back. So he booked a hunt into Nyakasanga, and you guys were after what most will consider the most dangerous game in Africa, and that is, elephant cows, and specifically a tuskless cow.
Very happy with that. That isn't
So, as we all know, elephant bull hunting is very exciting, and it is always fun to get up in close and personal with those bulls. But hunting a tuskless cow, it's a whole different level of hunting. Lots of excitement, lots of close moments, lots of shouting and screaming. But I tell you what, when you got a person like George who's got the elephant bug, he just couldn't resist it, and he had to give tuskless hunting a try.
So Andy, you've filmed as many tuskless hunts as anybody in the world, probably. I mean, so explain, a tuskless and and why they're on quota. We don't shoot tusk cows, but explain what a tuskless is, a little bit about their life, which makes them different from a regular elephant and some of the challenges they face, and why we hunt them.
So Dave, a tuskless elephant, it's not just the cows that can be tuskless.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people don't know. You can also get bull tuskless elephants. They aren't nearly as common as the tuskless cows, but it's a genetic defect. And the reason we think we've been seeing so many of them over the years is when ivory poachers came in and really started doing some damage to the elephant populations, they were ignoring the tuskless elephant, which obviously left a lot more of them to breed with the tusk bulls that were there. And that's how that gene just got spread around so much. And it's been something that they've been trying to get out of the elephant herd, but I think there's just been so many mothers and so many fathers coming through with the tuskless gene that I don't think it will ever truly be completely eradicated out of the elephant population.
Well, I explain it to people as, imagine if you're born without arms, because the tusks for an elephant are working tools. They're not just they serve a purpose. They dig roots, they dig water, they strip bark off of trees and then grab it with their trunk, stick it in their mouth. But a tuskless doesn't have that advantage. I've watched them before where they'll kind of side up to one of their sisters or an aunt or a grandmother or something that's working a big old juicy piece of bark off a baobab or something, and they get it free, and then that tuskless runs in there and knocks them out of the way and snatches it for themselves. So Keith, agree with that? They're very aggressive. By nature has forced them to be a little bit more on the aggressive side than the rest of the cows in the herd.
Like you said, Dave, it's like having hands. They don't have ivory, and obviously they constantly use ivory to gouge out bark. Tuskless always are constantly fighting for their food, so they do tend to rob their sisters and aunts and little ones for food and that, and that's why quite often they have a bad attitude for that. But yeah, it's a bit tough for the poor old girls and boys that don't have the teeth there.
So let's just start walking through this hunt. In Nyakasanga area has a lot of elephant, and but it's not quite a needle in a haystack. But you got to look through a lot. You're not just trying to find a tuskless. You also have to the other considerations. Do they have calves? Are the calves dependent on them? Which of course you would step away immediately from. Walk us through this, Keith, because this is really an interesting sequence that I didn't understand when I first saw it, and then towards the end it'll make sense to everybody.
We were coming to a later part of the day where we actually are on the boundary of Nyakasanga and another national park, and we're actually making our way back towards camp because we were quite far, and we actually crossed this particular river, the Riese, and we actually drove past this tuskless. I didn't see it, but the guys actually saw it, and we stopped and we managed to go back. But we didn't know behind her was a young bull as well. And if you go back on the footage, you'll see me trying to make her approach. It was a little bit open. We're actually making a final approach on that cow and trying to get it to turn. But we also had the young bull on our right-hand side that is trying to intercept us. And actually, they took off, and we actually thought, well, we're pretty much done. And we walked back towards where we had spotted them. And my driver actually said, hey, I've just seen two elephants in the background here. So we decided, let's just go and have a look. And luck as we have it, it was actually the tuskless and the wind is in our favor, everything is in our favor, and we made our approach.
It's always beautiful when you see an elephant reaching up on a tree like that to knock down all of the what were those? Those are torchwood. The torchwood were all in fruit that time of the year. Torchwood. And they were way, way more interested in trying to get those torchwoods out of the tree than obviously noticing that we were moving up. We had such a beautiful approach in that riverbed, being below them with the bank covering our approach. And as luck would have it, you saw that bull put his head up and start knocking down some torchwoods, and some fell behind him. So he then turned around and walked, and the cow moved into position.
shoot through. Side brain. Frontal. Good shot. Watch her. Hold on, come. Come. I've got you. Right. Between the eyes. We might have to give another one, just reload.
I'll tell you what, David, originally it was actually going to be a side brain shot. We're behind the tree, and I turned to George and I said, it's going to be side brain. And I was actually pushing him out. But as I pushed him out behind the tree, she picked up on movement and she turned frontal. And at that shot, I mean, the camera angle, it doesn't give it justice. We're actually quite close to the elephant. I reckon, what would you say, Andy, 12, 15 yards maybe?
Yeah, about that, eh? I'd say 12 yards. We're really close.
And
She could
that's,
see us as well.
yeah, and George put in a phenomenal frontal brain shot. I mean, we didn't have to put in a second insurance shot in, but, you know, rather be safe than sorry, but he made a phenomenal shot there.
No, he absolutely did. And of course, you know, the butchering sequence repeats here. All that's going to go, every ounce of that meat's going to go straight to the community, and, you know, just another successful cog in the wheel of conservation. But you can just tell George, he just enjoys it. I mean, yeah, what a great guy.
Such a fun hunt. Lots of humor on that hunt. Lots of laughing and joking on the back of the vehicle between Andy and George, especially when they're going through their movie sequences themselves. And, you know, George's such a pleasure to hunt with. And, you know, George comes back every year with us, and we're actually looking forward to another safari this year.
Absolute pleasure.
Every client that comes to Africa, eventually the conversation or the question pops up, well, what about snakes? Are we going to see snakes? And, you know, the different, and have you had any really bad run-ins with snakes? And most guys got some interesting stories. And you know, you're hunting elephant stuff, but one of the most deadly animals on the planet, especially in Africa, is a snake called the black mamba. And you guys were apparently, I knew you went into Monopools and you spent some time in there, and right behind a ranger's house. Yeah, tell me about this.
So George and I were sitting on the back of the vehicle, and we were just going on kind of a game drive. This was the day after we had shot the Tuskless, and Gurries was sitting right behind me, and I can always tell when the guys see a snake. I mean, there's very few animated moments on a vehicle is when someone sees a snake, and in particular a black mamba or a cobra. And Gurries was moving very, very quickly. I mean, he had seen it just off the road. It was quite close to the vehicle. So I then stopped the car because I saw it, and I saw, okay, there's a black mamba.
Shoot it. Kan je black mamba warm there? Get your shotgun. Draw.
We're a bit close to that game, Scott.
Draw.
See it there? There, it's moving. Some right in front of you. In.
Yeah, Roy. Nasty thing.
What's going on? You know, a lot of the times you just leave them be if you're in the deep bush, let them go on their way. But when they're in close proximity to, especially a ranger station, you know, those guys, It's not just a phone call and then all of a sudden a medevac is there. Those guys a lot of the times have to get on a motorcycle or wait for a vehicle to arrive from a ranger station, and by then it's too late. So whenever you see a snake like that close to human inhabitants, it could be a better idea just to try and get it out of the way, put it down. But George did not like that snake. He thought we were all crazy trying to grab this thing.
He took off.
He didn't want to come near that thing, but rightly so. That is a very dangerous serpent right there, man.
A snake that size has enough venom in him to kill a fair-sized cocktail party.
Oh yeah. No, everyone, a lot of people will die. It's a very, very toxic, neurotoxic venom. You die from respiratory failure from a black mamba bite. So as long as you've got maybe an air rescue service with a full life support system where they can manage your breathing, that's pretty much the only way you'll survive. If not, your chances of surviving a black mamba bite are very, very small, if any.
And Keith, the name, people look at that and say that snake was kind of olive green, and kind of slate gray. Where does the name black mamba come from?
So if you look, when I opened its mouth there, Dave, it's actually the inside of its mouth is black, and it's kind of got a coffin-shaped head, which tells you danger, danger, danger. So when people think of a black mamba, they think the whole snake is black. It's not. It's actually the mouth that's black, and that's where it tells you that's a dangerous snake right there.
Well, boys, as always, I appreciate you taking us on the journey. And like I said, I thought this one was really, really cool. It wasn't the most action-packed hunt because elephant hunts generally aren't. They're lots of miles, with a sighting here and there until you find your bull, and that's what makes it what it is. But fellas, you painted a really good picture of exactly, in my opinion, what an elephant hunt ought to be, and an outcome that we always hope for. Don't always get, but you got that, and I was proud of both of you guys, your team, Andy, as always. None of us get to enjoy any of this without the great job that you and your brother and our other guys do. There's nobody better in Africa than the Safari Classics video team, I can tell you that. So, gentlemen, I appreciate you both being on the show with us this morning, and I know it won't be long till we're sitting down talking about some other African adventure, and we got a bunch of them lined up. Speaking of Safari Classics TV, I really love everybody that hasn't checked out our app. I really wish you would do that. The Safari Classics TV app is where you can go today, and by becoming a member, and you can be a monthly member. I suggest you make an annual membership. But you'll have access to over 300 Safari Classic, production series, Tracks Across Africa, Hornady's Dark and Dangerous. There's 300 episodes right now, and we'll always be adding to that. There's always, it's kind of like building an airplane when you're flying it. We are adding to it daily. We're adding to it weekly. There's always going to be new content popping up on there that you can't find anywhere else besides the app. So the way to find out a little bit more about it, and I hope you'll take the trip, go to safariclassicstv.com, and you'll see all the information on the app. And another little tip, be sure if you want to sign up for the app, do it on our website. If you go through an app store, it'll cost you $30 more, and I don't want you to have to do that. So head over to the safariclassicstv.com and activate your membership today. You will have 24/7 Safari Adventure at your fingertips whenever you want to sit down, and you can play it on your phone, play it on your tablet, on your computer, or your 90-inch Sanyo at home, and you can have Safari Adventure anytime you're ready. Fellas, thanks for being here. And everybody at home, thanks for joining in, and we will see you right here next time on Safari Classics TV.